How does a killer vanish into a thin air, leaving behind a trail of cryptic puzzles and unspeakable violence? Between 1968 and 1969, California was shaken by a series of murders that seemed random, unconnected, until the letters started arriving. Chilling, taunting, and carefully crafted, they revealed the mind of someone who was not just a murderer, but a manipulator, someone who wanted the world to watch, to fear, and to fail at finding him. He called himself the Zodiac. In his first letters, he claimed responsibility for multiple killings and issued a challenge: "Decode my ciphers and you'll know who I am." Each message, delivered with eerie precision, mocked law enforcement and promised more bloodshed. His words weren't just taunts, they were riddles, puzzles designed to baffle even the sharpest minds. And they did. With every new attack, his confidence grew. Couples brutally attacked in quiet, secluded places. A taxi driver shot dead in the middle of the city. Yet no pattern emerged to predict his next move, except for the letters. Always the letters. One cipher cracked, a grim message revealed, but no name, no face. His remaining codes, still unbroken, taunt us to this day. Was he daring us to catch him, or laughing at a world that never could? For over 5 decades, investigators, cryptologists, and amateur sleuths have pored over the evidence, chasing shadows and theories. Who was this man who committed such heinous acts, yet managed to evade every attempt to unmask him? Why did he disappear so suddenly, leaving only questions behind? And the most haunting thought of all, did he ever truly stop? This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, a name that still chills the spine and a mystery that refuses to die. Who was the Zodiac Killer? A name that has become synonymous with fear, fascination, and frustration. In the late 1960s, the Zodiac terrorized California's San Francisco Bay Area, claiming responsibility for a series of brutal murders. Officially, 5 lives were taken, but some believe the true number could be far higher, a mystery buried in time and unanswered questions. The story begins on a cold December night in 1968, just days before Christmas. Betty Lou Jensen, 16, and David Faraday, 17, were on their first date. The young couple parked their car along Lake Herman Road, a popular spot for local teens. It should have been a quiet evening, but it ended in bloodshed. At approximately 11:15 p.m., a mysterious figure approached their vehicle. Witnesses would later report seeing another car in the area moments before the murders. The attacker shot David Faraday in the head at close range and then chased Betty Lou Jensen as she fled, shooting her 5 times in the back before leaving both victims for dead. There were no witnesses, no clear motive, and no immediate suspects. This was the Zodiac's first known crime, and it set the stage for a wave of terror that would soon grip the region. Just 6 months later, on the night of July 4th, 1969, another young couple, Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Mageau, 19, were parked in a secluded lot at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. A car pulled in behind them, and a man emerged with a flashlight. Without warning, he opened fire, shooting both of them multiple times. Darlene did not survive, but Michael miraculously lived to describe the attacker. A heavy-set white male, approximately 5 feet 8 inches, with short, light brown hair. Only an hour later, a chilling phone call was made to the Vallejo Police Department. The man on the line confessed, "I want to report a double murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find 2 kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The caller's voice was calm, measured, a man in control. This was the Zodiac Killer, making his first direct contact with authorities. On September 27, 1969, another attack shook the Bay Area. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon near Lake Berryessa. They were approached by a man wearing an executioner-style hood, adorned with a crosshair symbol, the same symbol that would become his infamous signature. The man tied them up before stabbing both of them repeatedly with a long knife. Cecilia would later succumb to her injuries, but Brian survived to recount the horrifying encounter. Before leaving the scene, the attacker took a chilling step further, Using a marker, he scrawled the dates of his previous attacks on the couple's car door, along with his signature symbol and a new message: "Buy knife." This marked a shift in the Zodiac's modus operandi. He was no longer just killing, he was creating a narrative, branding his crimes with a terrifying sense of purpose. The Zodiac's final confirmed murder came just 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, in the bustling city of San Francisco. Paul Stine, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare near Union Square. When the ride ended in the city's affluent Presidio Heights neighborhood, Stine was shot in the head at point-blank range. But this time, the Zodiac left behind more than just fear. Witnesses saw him wipe down the cab before calmly walking away, disappearing into the night. A police sketch was created based on their descriptions, showing a man with a round face, horn-rimmed glasses, and a seemingly unremarkable appearance. The Zodiac's arrogance was evident. Just days later, he sent a piece of Stine's bloodied shirt to the San Francisco Chronicle as proof of his crime. These attacks were not just acts of violence. They were orchestrated to create terror. Unlike most killers, the Zodiac didn't hide from the public. He courted attention. Over the course of his spree, he sent more than 20 letters to newspapers and law enforcement, each one a puzzle designed to provoke and confuse. The Zodiac's ciphers, some cracked, others still unsolved, have stumped even the most brilliant minds. His crimes have inspired countless theories, books, movies, and amateur investigations. More than that, the case forces us to confront a terrifying question. How does evil hide in plain sight? The Zodiac wasn't a ghost or a shadow. He was a person, moving through the same streets as his victims, slipping through the cracks of justice. And yet the Zodiac Killer remains an enigma. More than 50 years later, we are no closer to unmasking him, but his legacy endures as one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history. While the Zodiac's brutal attacks left physical evidence, bullet casings, footprints, and even bloodied garments, it was his letters that elevated him from a violent criminal to a haunting figure in American history. These taunting messages weren't just admissions of guilt, they were a declaration of his twisted genius. They revealed a mind that sought to control the narrative, to dominate the public and law enforcement alike. The Zodiac first reached out to the media on July 31, 1969. 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received a letter. Written in a crude yet precise style, these letters described the Blue Rock Springs and Lake Herman Road murders in chilling detail, proving that the writer was, indeed, the killer. But the letters didn't stop there. Attached to each was a cryptic cipher, a grid of symbols and letters, with an ominous claim: "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The killer demanded that the newspapers publish the ciphers on their front pages, or else he threatened to unleash more violence. Each cipher was a puzzle designed to baffle the police and public, challenging them to uncover his identity. And, to his horror, someone actually did. Just days after the letters were published, a high school teacher and his wife solved the first cipher. Their findings revealed a disturbing glimpse into the Zodiac's mind. It read, "I like killing because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill." But the cipher also ended abruptly. "When I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all I have killed will become my slaves." There was no signature, no name. The Zodiac's identity remained hidden. Over the years, more ciphers would arrive. The most infamous, the 340-character cipher, sent in November 1969, would remain unsolved for over 50 years, until a team of amateur cryptologists cracked it in 2020. Its message? Another taunt. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Yet some of the Zodiac's ciphers remain unbroken to this day, challenging even the most advanced decoding technology. The Zodiac didn't just stop at ciphers. His letters were laced with mockery and threats, aimed directly at law enforcement. In one letter, he gloated, "The police shall never catch me because I have been too clever for them." He even referenced his crimes with morbid humor, attaching diagrams of bombs he claimed he was building and threatening school buses full of children. "Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out," he wrote in one particularly chilling message. Yet despite his boasts, police struggled to gather concrete leads. The Zodiac reveled in this. His letters grew more erratic over time, filled with spelling errors, bizarre symbols, and grandiose claims, some of which may have been fabrications. He claimed responsibility for as many as 37 murders, far exceeding the 5 officially attributed to him. While the Zodiac's letters revealed his mind, the crime scenes revealed his methods: brutal, efficient, and terrifyingly random. Could it have been a teacher with a hidden double life? A library worker whose actions seemed just a little too odd? Or maybe a journalist who moved through the same spaces as the killer, unnoticed? Over the years, several names have come up, men whose lives were forever changed by the suspicion that they might be the Zodiac Killer. Each one with a story that seemed to point somewhere, but never quite reached the truth. Arthur Lee Allen is the name that stands out the most. He was the only person officially named by the police as a suspect. His life carried strange coincidences. He wore a Zodiac-branded watch, made cryptic comments to people around him, and was even identified by a survivor of one attack. But the evidence didn't stick. Handwriting experts ruled him out. DNA samples didn't match. Did Allen escape justice? Or was he just a man in the wrong place at the wrong time? Ross Sullivan was another name that surfaced. After the 1966 murder of Sherry Jo Bates, which some believe was the Zodiac's first attack, Sullivan's behavior raised questions. He disappeared for days and then returned, acting nervous and withdrawn. He fit the physical description of the Zodiac, and his interest in codes made investigators suspicious. But once again, nothing definitive connected him to the crimes. Was Sullivan hiding a dark truth, or was he just misunderstood? Richard Gaikowski's name also entered the list. A journalist with ties to the San Francisco area, he seemed to know just a little too much. His handwriting and the timing of his movements caught attention. But when investigators dug deeper, the trail went cold. Was Gaikowski a man with secrets, or just another innocent person swept up in the Zodiac's mystery? Lawrence Kane and Earl Van Best Jr. followed the same pattern. Plenty of suspicions, but no proof. Kane's history of criminal behavior and his presence near crime scenes made him a person of interest. Van Best Jr. was accused by his own son, whose claims seemed compelling at first. But as quickly as their names were raised, they were dismissed. The Zodiac remained a step ahead. In 2018, new technology brought a flicker of hope. Partial DNA was extracted from letters believed to have been licked by the Zodiac himself. It was a breakthrough decades in the making, but even this wasn't enough. The samples were too degraded to confirm a match. The killer stayed in the shadows. With no clear answers, theories have only grown. Some say the Zodiac acted alone, a single person planning each step carefully. Others wonder if it was more than one person, dividing the work to make sure no single suspect could be caught. His ciphers, which baffled even trained codebreakers, led some to believe he had military or cryptographic training. And then, there are those who suggest he faked his death or moved somewhere else, continuing his crimes under a new name. The Zodiac Killer's letters were signed with a symbol, a mark of someone who wanted to be remembered. Decades later, that mark still haunts investigators and the families of his victims. Was he a man with a face, a name, and a story waiting to be uncovered? Or will the mystery of his identity stay hidden forever? The search for answers continues. There's a reason the Zodiac Killer continues to fascinate and terrify in equal measure. His crimes were brutal, his puzzles confounding, and his audacity unparalleled. Hollywood couldn't resist, with films like Zodiac, 2007, reigniting public interest. References to the case appear in TV shows, books, and podcasts. The Zodiac is more than a criminal. He's become a symbol of the unknowable, the unresolved. But the cultural impact goes even deeper. The rise of true crime as a genre owes much to cases like this one. Amateur sleuths worldwide pick apart every clue, every lead, hoping to find the key that trained investigators missed. Why? Because the Zodiac isn't just a story, it's a challenge. A reminder that even in the age of information, some secrets refuse to be uncovered. And perhaps the most unsettling thought of all is this: the Zodiac could have been anyone. A neighbor who smiled at you while passing, a teacher who graded your homework, A colleague you shared coffee with. His letters and ciphers remind us that evil doesn't always hide. It often walks among us. Who do you think the Zodiac was? Do you think we'll ever know the truth? Or has the Zodiac taken his secrets to the grave? Could the next breakthrough finally solve this mystery? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that demand answers. This isn't the end. There's always more to uncover.